and welcome back to my channel. You are watching True Summer Knits. My name is Maddie. I am the owner and person behind True Summer Knits. I am very excited for today's episode. Okay, that's gonna be way too loud. I am very excited for today's episode. It's been 2 weeks since my last podcast, but last week I did upload a summer capsule wardrobe pattern roundup video. So if that interests you and you didn't check it out, go check that out and then come back. But today we just have a regular podcast episode, but we do have a really excited finished object, which if you can see me wearing, is the basic boat neck top, basic boat neck tank, by me. It's my first design. I'm gonna take some time to tell you all about it. And then I have a test call that by the time this video is uploaded should be ready to take applications. But first, before I get into all that, let me just tell you about what it is that I'm wearing. So it's the basic boat neck tank by me. It's a new pattern. It is going to be a free pattern. The main thing that I'm going to do with it is this is going to be a full video tutorial. I want it to be beginner friendly, so I'm going to try to explain everything as best as possible. That will come out whenever testing is done. I'm still getting it tested just because I want to make sure it works for all the sizes that I've graded it to. Right now I've graded it from extra small to 5XL, which is about 31 inches-ish to 60 inches. Obviously with each size you could be an inch or two below or above and still be fine, but those are the sizes that I've graded it to. So that's 9 sizes total, and this one, my first sample, is knit in Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the shade Soft Blue. It is a really nice neutral on me. I think it just really looks amazing on me. This was a really quick knit. I knit this in 11 days. I think I started on July 11th and finished on July 21st. And throughout that time, I was writing the pattern and working on some grading. So after that, I finished it. It didn't take me long to finish up the pattern and the grading. And some of my very wonderful friends on Instagram have read over it for me and given me their thoughts and made some edits. I'm so grateful for them. The 3 people that have helped me have been Candid Knit, Blank Stitches, and Carbon and String. They are amazing. Follow them. Candid Knit and Blank Stitches both have their own podcasts. So if you're looking for another podcast, check both of them out if you haven't seen them, because they are great. But other than the yarn, the gauge is 28 stitches by 48 rows, and I knit this with a 2.75 millimeter needle. I wanted it to be like a tighter gauge so it looked more commercial. I know some people get the 28 stitches with a 3 millimeter needle, so if that's what it takes to get gauge, that's fine, but I personally usually get that gauge with 2.75 millimeter needles. And then I'll show you some details. So it's stockinette. You start up here, you basically cast on for the front strap, you knit just a little bit, and then you immediately go to cast on stitches for the neckline. So it is like a boat neck, obviously. The way I did this sample is going to be very slightly different from the finished pattern. It's going to look exactly the same, but the increases are going to be done a little differently. But it's going to look the same. But I'm knitting another one right now, and I'll talk about that in a second. But after you do the straps and you start the neckline, you knit for a little while, and then you start the increases for the underarms. Just standard underarm increases like you do for anything else. After that, you pick up for the back panel, and you cast on stitches for the neckline right away, and you knit the back panel down to shape the underarms again, and then you cast on stitches at the underarms, and you connect it in the round. And then it's knit in the round, just in stockinette from there. The pattern does include waist shaping. It's optional, but if you want it to be fitted like mine is, then I recommend doing the waist shaping. I've actually included the waist measurements in the pattern that I graded the waist shaping to, just so you know like what you're gonna get if you knit the waist shaping exactly to pattern. But of course, if your waist measurement is larger than that, then knit less waist increases, or I'm sorry, then knit less waist decreases. Or if your waist measurement is smaller, you can knit more. So it's adjustable, but I just wanted to give a little bit of guidance for people who don't like, just when they open a pattern and it says knit waist decreases until you like it, basically. I wanted to give some kind of guidance, Then after you knit the waist decreases, I don't have this to show you yet because I wrote the hem as a folded hem in the pattern, but actually what I did for the sample was a double knitted hem, which I don't like. I love the way it looks, but it doesn't have enough stretch when it's going horizontal versus like when you do vertical double knitted straps. So it doesn't really work, but I do love the way it looks. I'll just quickly show you this hem. If you can see, it's really subtle, and it's just a thin line of double knitting, but unfortunately, it's really tight. It's not too tight that I can't pull it over my head and like get it on, but it pulls tighter around my hips, so it just makes it a little scrunched. So I am going to, at some point, rip it out and do a folded hem. It's not that much work, but I've already started my second sample, which is going to have the folded hem. But thankfully, folded hems are easy to knit, so I knew how to do the instructions for it. I mean, I told you what to do, and when I knit this second sample, I'm going to do it with the folded hem at that point. This top also is going to have, I graded it for 10% negative ease, which in practice, when you do the math, works to about 3 to 5 inches of negative ease, depending on the size. But since it's just stockinette and it's not insanely stretchy, I wanted to just stay with that 10% range per size. And by the way, if you're wondering, if I can't really see this like in person, but in this lighting, I can see this like off-color spot. I did wear this last night. I made my husband and I chicken wings, and I got buffalo sauce on it. So I had to do some stain removal with some soap, and I don't think I was able to fully wash the soap out. So that is not a testament to this yarn. That is just a testament to my chicken wing eating skills. I can't eat chicken wings without getting sauce on me, unfortunately. That should be a competitive sport, but I would not succeed at that. Another interesting thing that I did with this pattern, I feel like I described this somewhat in the last episode, but I was talking about how I was worried about knitting this and doing I-cord for the finishing because I really didn't want the I-cord to curl or seem kind of floppy like it does when you just do a regular I-cord on stockinette edges. So basically what I did is, instead of when you're knitting into a neckline and you're picking up stitches for the I-cord, you'll just go right into that edge of the stitch and you'll pick it up there. What I did instead was I folded the curled edge inwards by about 2 stitches, so it creates a little double layer of fabric, and I went and I picked up the stitch through that double layer of fabric. So I picked up the same amount of stitches, and the motion of picking up stitches is done in the same way, but instead of picking it up through that one little stitch, I doubled up the stitches and picked it up through that. Obviously that'll be something I'll have to explain more in the video because it's something you kind of have to see. I tried to explain it as best I could for the written pattern, but it's kind of hard if you've never done it before. I feel like that was a big challenge for me, was trying to figure out how can I explain this and like make sense. Because like another thing is on the inside of the straps here, where you've done your increases and you cast on, there's this like little 3/4 of an inch area where it doesn't curl. So I didn't fold it over there, I just folded it over everywhere else. And it was the same thing with right under the underarm. It didn't curl there, so I just picked up through the edge for those few stitches like you would anything else you're picking up. I tried to describe that as best I could in the pattern, but by the time it comes out, the video will be out, and I think even if you just get the written pattern, I'm going to put in the timestamp for that video if that part confuses you. But yeah, this feels very like strange just talking about something that I've created and talking about doing test knits and releasing a pattern. But this has been something I wanted to do for a really long time. I feel like I have a lot of ideas for knitwear that I want to create. Sorry about that. I had to take a quick break because someone decided to mow their lawn, and that is completely fair because here in South Mississippi, with all the sun and heat, you have to mow your lawn approximately every 2 days, so it's kind of hard to avoid that. So if they start up again and you hear some lawn mowing sounds, please forgive me. I can't control the grass. But where was I? I was talking about this. So I talked all about the construction. Another thing is that I recommend it. I knit this with the Knitting for Olive cotton merino. You can also use the Knitting for Olive merino. I would not use the pure silk. This is a fitted tank top. I think it needs some kind of wool blended in there for that elasticity. So if you do want to test, you don't have to use the Knitting for Olive yarns, but you will need some kind of fingering or light fingering weight yarn with at least some wool blended in that you can meet gauge with. I feel like I've kind of talked about everything about the pattern. I'm going to circle back real quick to the test knit if you are interested. Like I said, there should be a Google Docs form in the description. So if you want to test, you could do that. Or if you've already seen it on my Instagram stories, you could just do that there. My plan for the test knit, obviously this is going to be a free pattern, so I understand some people might not be willing to test, and absolutely no hard feelings if that's the case. I completely understand. You're basically just kind of helping me out, and I really appreciate that. In the future, I plan on releasing paid patterns, but for this first one, I thought it'd be a good idea to, post something for my viewers and sort of release something so people can see how my patterns are written and formatted. But my plan is to, when this video releases, it should be Saturday or Sunday. I'm going to take about a week to look at test knit applications and pick my testers. Hopefully I'll get somebody for every size, ideally. And then I plan on giving everybody about a week before the test officially starts to get their yarn and everything. I'm going to go ahead and send out the pattern, so if anyone has yarn and they want to start it early, that's fine. So it'll be the next Saturday or Sunday that we start the test, and then I think I'm going to give it about 6 weeks. I really only need it done about 2 inches underneath the armhole where you join the round, and then I need all the I-cord finishing done to test that stuff of the pattern. But this is a really quick knit. I know it's going to depend on people's schedules and what size you're making, but for me personally, I knit this in 11 days, like I said earlier, and I wasn't knitting like all day, every day or anything. It was pretty quick. I did it somewhat cropped. I didn't want it to be too cropped, but I basically knitted it so it was about to my high hip, and that's kind of what I graded the pattern to be. And it took me about 2 balls of the Knitting for Olive cotton merino. It might have gone into a little bit of the 3rd ball, but it's hard to say for sure because I did knit the top, everything to the underarms once, and then I ripped it out and changed some things, so it's hard for me to say exactly how much yarn I use until I weigh it. But I do have a good amount of this yarn left, and I had bought 3 balls. So yeah, if you want to test knit this for me, I would love that. I cannot wait to post this video and have this pattern out there and see other people making a pattern that I wrote, so check that out. I will briefly show you the second sample. There's pretty much nothing to show, but if you remember my past couple episodes, I've had a saga where I've been trying to knit something with the blueberry ice cream shade of the Knitting for Olive cotton merino. It's this beautiful lavender, purple. Well, I'm just going to show you it here because it seems like it focuses better. It's this beautiful lavender, blue, purple color. It's like not bright, but it is kind of like a standout color. You know what I mean? I had started knitting the Alana camisole. I knit a bunch of that. I realized I was knitting the wrong size and I wasn't liking the fabric, so I ripped that out, knit an entire petal drop camisole that took me like 2 weeks, but it was so see-through that there was no way I could wear it, and also it was kind of tight and really too tight under the underarm, so it wasn't fitting amazingly. So I'm ripping that out. I'm just casting on a second sample of my boat neck top, just so I can officially knit it to pattern and see how I like it, and knit it with the test knitters and stuff. But I will have to knit this one more time whenever I make the video, and I'm thinking about knitting it in the merino this time, but I cannot think of what shade to knit it in, because for one, there's only so many colors from Knitting for Olive that like really look good on me, so I want it to be something that's in my true summer palette, obviously, but then I don't want it to be too dark because I'm going to be knitting the whole thing on camera. I really thought about doing it in Dusty Violet, which is like this kind of dark gray purple color, but I just worried that it'll be too dark, so it won't show up well on camera. I really don't know. If you have any ideas of what merino color you think would look good on me that you also think would show up good on camera, give me some suggestions. I'd love to hear it, because I'm going to have to buy that soon so I can start knitting it on camera and filming that video. But yeah, that is everything about my basic boat neck tank and the test knit and the yarns I'm using. So I will move on from that, but you will definitely be hearing more about that in the future because I'm really proud of myself. So I am going to toot my own horn here a little bit. I feel pretty cool. But I'm going to move on to that and go into my other sort of works in progress and my upcoming plans, because this tank top has kind of overtaken everything, and I haven't really done much other stuff, but I have been working on a couple of socks, and I've gotten a couple of sock yarns, and I've got some plans coming up, so I'm going to tell you about those. But first, I'll show you the thing that has been on my needles the longest, which is a pair of socks. So if you saw my last podcast episode, you will remember my complaints about this yarn. This is certainly not my favorite yarn, but I have started knitting a pair of socks out of it. I've actually got a lot done. I'm on to the gusset increases, and I think last time I'd basically just gotten like 5 rows into the toe. But let's see if I can get this to focus. Okay, that's good. I just gotta block out my face. So this is the St. Mary Mead sock by This Handmade Life. She's got a whole series of these. Oh, there's a cop pulling up, and I thought he was at my house, but he's actually across the street. That scared me. I was like, what did I do? Am I a fugitive? Anyway, this is a lace sock by This Handmade Life. It's got this really beautiful lace pattern. You can see it up close. It's a toe-up sock. She has this whole sock series that she does based on like the Agatha Christie books. I think this one is based off Miss Marple, which I've never read. But my husband and I we're really into Hallmark movies. And the Hallmark series we're really into right now is Mystery 101. This is good quality stuff. Like, some of the Hallmark movies we watch are Hallmark movies, if you know what I mean. Like, they're very much cheesy, stupid Hallmark movies. But then some stuff we watch in Hallmark is like, I mean, maybe not Oscar quality, but it's like good stuff. It's good quality stuff. And this is one of them. The main characters have such good chemistry. Like, it's like that kind of chemistry when you watch a couple in movies and you're like, was your wife in real life okay with this? Because, like, I don't know if I would have been okay with this. Like, you guys have too much chemistry. You know what I mean? Like, it's that level stuff. It's about this girl or this woman, and she's a professor at a college, and she studies like crime fiction, and her dad's like a famous crime fiction writer, and then there's like these murders, and there's a cop who's like a detective, and then they start solving murders together, and she's like Sherlock and he's like Watson, and sometimes they do this thing where like she does like these Sherlock deductions where she's like, oh yeah, I could tell you you played basketball in college because your key ring has a logo for the sports team that only a real basketball player would know. Like, just stupid stuff like that. I completely made that up. And that can get kind of cheesy, but there's 7 movies, and as we've gone on, the deductions have gotten a little less cheesy. So I recommend it. We pay for like the Hallmark movie premium because we watch them every day, and this is probably our favorite Hallmark series ever. They just kissed in the last movie, and me and my husband like freaked out. Like we were like, there was the same reaction as when I was like 9, and my friend and I watched Camp Rock 2, and Mitchie and Shane kissed. That was like the biggest moment of my life. But I'm gonna move on from that tangent. I don't actually really even know why I brought it up. But anyway, the Miss Marple socks. So toe up, lace. I'm doing the gusset increases. The heel turn, it looks like it's just a regular short row heel. And then I'm gonna knit a few inches before doing the twisted rib cuff. But I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. This Handmade Life is my absolute favorite sock designer. She's got so many good ones, and I can't recommend this one enough. The yarn, if you didn't hear about it in the last episode, is the Rico Superba Bamboo Superwash sock yarn. It's 75% virgin wool and 25, no. I think should be 45% virgin wool, 25% viscose, and maybe 30% polyamide, or it could be 30% viscose and 25% polyamide. I'll put it right here just to clarify because I don't have the label for this anymore. And it's in the color smoky pink, which is it's a really pretty color. That's why I bought it. And I thought it'd be nice to have like a warmer or more breathable yarn for socks since I run super hot and it's currently like 1,000,000 degrees outside right now. It's so hot that when I get into my car, the steering wheel burns my hands. It's really bad. It's so bad. I'm ready for fall. But yeah, the yarn itself is fine. It's not as soft as I typically like to work with, which might be a plus for you. I know a lot of people prefer like rougher sock yarns. It definitely feels like it'll hold up, but I prefer like sock yarns that don't feel so rustic, I guess. But my real gripe with this yarn was just the quality control. See if I've got another piece I can show you because I just saw one. I can't find it now, but throughout this yarn, and especially in the first like yard of the yarn, there were knots and there were these pieces that weren't spun or dyed correctly. I don't know if it was the viscose fiber or the nylon fiber, but it had these big bits of white that were spun around the yarn. They clearly weren't meant to be there, and they were like various thicknesses. They weren't dyed, they weren't like properly spun within the fiber. So I had to cut that out, and I had to cut out like a couple other knots like within the first bit of yarn. It was pretty ridiculous in my opinion. And throughout the yarn, you'll have a lot of yarn where it's normal, and then it'll randomly get into parts where it's messed up again. So I just don't like that there are parts that I have to cut out. I feel like for sock yarn, that's like a big inconvenience. It's less of a big deal if you're knitting like a big garment when you have lots of balls of yarn. But like for socks, like I just want to have as little ends to weave in as possible. You know what I mean? So I don't think I'd buy this yarn again, but just because of the quality control, but the yarn itself isn't bad. I actually started another pair of socks, but I had to rip them out, but I'll still tell you about the pattern and what they're going to be and everything. And this is also an acquisition, so I'll just talk about that real quick for a second. I got 2 balls of 2 colors of this yarn, so 2 balls each. This is Knit Picks Stroll. It's a fingering weight sock yarn. It's a superwash merino and nylon blend, 75-25. This is amazing yarn. I'm obsessed with this yarn. I want to buy every single color that I like and just maybe only knit socks with this for the rest of my life until I die. It's so hard to explain. It's soft, but it feels sturdy. I feel like it's because it's fuzzier than other yarns, other soft sock yarns that I've worked with. It's got like this like protective layer of fuzz. It's almost like it's mixed with mohair. Like it kind of feels like the finished fabric when you knit some merino with some mohair, but it's really soft. And when I bought it, like it smells woolly. Not all wool yarns have that like amazing wool smell to it, and I don't know why that is. But this is just this amazing wool smell. It just feels amazing. It creates this amazing fabric when you knit up with it. I want to figure out, like, I think they have some 100% superwash merino yarns, and I would love to figure out which of their yarns is closest to this without the nylon, so I could knit some sweaters out of it. But I guess I'm worried to try the other ones because I'm worried they won't be as good as this. But I guess I could just knit a sweater with the sock yarn and like hold it with some mohair. I don't know why I'm so afraid of the 25% nylon for a sweater. If anything, it'll make it stronger. But this is an amazing yarn. And this color is Prairie Heather. It's this really neutral, like muted brown color. My husband is a soft autumn and he loves his browns. So I bought these for him to make a pair of socks for him. And the pair of socks I'm knitting for him, well, I'm going to knit. I started knitting and I had to rip out because I cast on the completely wrong amount of stitches. I really don't know how I accomplished that. I remember counting and everything, but I must have been really tired because I was supposed to cast on 72 stitches, and I think I cast on some random number like 75 or 76. I don't know how I accomplished that. So I'm gonna start over, but it was looking pretty nice until I realized I did that. So for these socks, I'm branching out and I'm knitting something other than this Handmade Life because she's wonderful sock patterns, but they're all kind of feminine, and I don't know if there's any that he would really like, but I found some that I know will look really good on him. And these are the Seasalt socks by Maya McDonald. They have this really interesting ribbed pattern. It's not like an even rib. I think you do like a few rounds of one kind of rib and then a few rounds of another. It kind of alternates. It just creates this really interesting texture. And these were my favorite, but I still picked out a few different ones to show him to see what he liked. And this was the one he liked the best too. It's just this really pretty pattern. And it's cuffed down, which is what I used to do all my socks in. And recently I've been converted to a toe-up sock lover, but I'm still gonna knit these cuffed down. I'm brave. I guess I could knit them toe-up if I wanted to. I mean, it's not like a lace pattern, so it really wouldn't be that difficult to adjust, but after having put so much brain power towards my pattern, I kind of just want to put no brain power towards this at all. So I think I'll just knit it to pattern, which is fine. But it's really beautiful. Let me see the details. It's got a regular 1x1 rib cuff, the rib pattern, just a regular heel flap and gusset. And then she says the toe is meant to be a rounded toe. I don't know if that means she does the decreases differently. I have the pattern, but I haven't looked through that part, so I'm not sure. But I did read through the part of the pattern that I'd done. It was well written. It's formatted well. I haven't looked much of her other designs, but I would check out this designer. She seems like she writes patterns well, and I'm really enjoying this sock pattern. And I'm excited to cast on the pair of socks soon and just finish it. Because if you've been with me since the beginning of my podcast, I knit my husband one other pair of socks. It was the camping socks by Tanya Barley. He loved those. He wears them like every day. Like I'm constantly washing those socks. So I'm so glad they're machine washable. And I knit those in Barocco vintage sock, which I didn't realize at the time, but actually doesn't have much wool in it. It's like maybe got 45% wool, and then the rest is a mixture of acrylic and polyamide. It feels like regular sock yarn, but I probably wouldn't use it again because I want to knit him like a nicer pair of socks. So I know he's going to love the socks knit out of these. The fabric it created just felt amazing, and he really likes his sock design. He's already worn holes into the other pair of socks, so I need to darn them. The parts that he wore holes into are actually garter stitch, and I don't know how to darn garter stitch, but I'm gonna fix it for him. It's just the heels. They wore out so fast. I mean, I knit that for him for his birthday in March, so they didn't last long, but also he wears them constantly in his boots, so I could only expect so much. But yeah, I got this for him. I'm really excited to knit him these socks. He is going to love it. I also got one more color for me, because I was like, babe, I'm buying you sock yarn. I have to buy me sock yarn too. I mean, it makes sense. Saves on shipping, am I right? Anyway, I got the color Frost, which is just a really pretty baby blue. I feel like it's just not going to focus. The color is most accurate when I pull it back over here. It's just a baby blue. I think it'll look really nice with some lace socks or some textured socks. And I want to buy this yarn in every single color that me or my husband likes because it's like the most amazing sock yarn I've ever felt in my entire life. I know that is a big claim. I 100% mean it. But that is enough for socks, and that's all my current works in progress. I am going to tell you about a plan I have. I'm filming this video on Friday, but I actually have a big yarn acquisition coming tomorrow. So I'll tell you about it. Even though it is the dead of summer, I spend a lot of time indoors. I like to keep my house really cool, like 65 degrees or 66 degrees. I like it to be cool enough that, like, if I want to and I'm sitting down, I could have like a blanket on, or I could throw like just a comfy sweater on. Not because I'm cold, but just because it's a good temperature for me to feel comfortable wearing something cozy. Does that make sense? So when I started knitting, I knit a few sweaters that were basically crappy and I don't actually really have anymore. And then I kind of got into summer knitting. So I don't really have any hand knit sweaters except for the Robinson wrap cardigan. So I was like, you know what? I want to knit a slightly oversized, really cool textured sweater in the Knitting for Olive merino and soft silk mohair. Doesn't matter if it's summer. I will get wear out of it inside, and then I'll have it ready for whenever fall comes around. So first of all, I actually at first wasn't sure if I wanted to knit it in the Knitting for Olive, because I really wanted to knit this like rosy pink color, and Knitting for Olive has horrible pinks, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. Knitting for Olive, if you love me, can you get me a cool toned, somewhat muted rosy pink color? Can we just email me? We can talk about this. We can work something out. But unfortunately, they don't have any good pinks. So I was looking at this brand, Majo Garn. I'm sure you've heard of them. A lot of people have used them. And they have the perfect pink color. I think the pink color is called Blush. And I don't remember what the mohair color is called because it's not exactly the same. But I'll put it up on the screen. But that color was the perfect pink. It's the pink I dream about. I've been searching for it in my dreams. And I have not been able to find a brand of yarn that has a fingering weight merino and a soft silk mohair combo that will give me this shade. So I was like, I'm gonna buy this yarn quantity. I'm gonna have to get like 5 or 6 balls of each to get like the sweater I want. So it's going to be expensive, but I was like, this is a special sweater, it'll be worth it. And I got all the way to checkout, and then shipping was $40. Listen, I know a lot of you guys are from other countries, and that might be normal for you guys, but we are entitled over here in America, and I like my Amazon free shipping, or my Knitting for Olive shipping, which is only $8, and they're in the same part of the world, basically. So I don't really understand why shipping is $40. And I know I'm already spending so much money on this yarn, but I just feel like I don't think I can justify spending $40 in shipping right now. So I pivoted, and I'm knitting this sweater with the Knitting for Olive merino and soft silk mohair in the shade Limestone, which, if you've been on knitting YouTube, you've probably heard about the Knitting for Olive shade Putty, and that shade has been discontinued. They changed how it was dyed, and then they discontinued it, and the color that is now Limestone is what Putty used to be. So it's this like whitish, grayish, bluish color. I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen lots of what I feel to be accurate pictures of it. But it's coming in tomorrow. I'm not going to start this project tomorrow. I probably want to knit one more of my sample and my husband's socks. But within the next couple weeks, I might like casually cast it on. I'm not in a rush to finish it, but I definitely really want to work on it. But that is the yarn that I'm going to be creating my sweater out of. But I have not even talked about the sweater that I'm going to be knitting. So if you've seen my pattern roundup videos, you might notice that I kind of prefer to knit with less popular designers, or I try to start my searches with, less popular designers first. But the sweater that I fell in love with, that I'm really wanting to knit out of this yarn, is actually a petite knit sweater. And that is the Jenny sweater. And I'm sure you've seen this pattern before. It's this really cute, somewhat oversized, but not too oversized sweater. She says it has raglan decrease. Oh, it's a bottom-up sweater, that's why. So it's a bottom-up sweater. It has this stitch she calls the smock stitch, which it looks like little V's. It's super cool. If you've seen me, you know I don't like knitting just stockinette. I have knit this in stockinette and I'm knitting another one, but ideally I like knitting things with texture. That's actually why I cast on those socks, because I was like, I need something to work on every now and then when I need a break from stockinette. So I'm so excited to knit a full sweater in the smocked textured stitch. It's super cool. I feel like it's one of her most unique patterns to me that I've seen, other than the Esther sweater. The Esther sweater was a big contender, but I didn't realize that that pattern is actually a DK weight yarn held with a mohair. So the knitting for olive wouldn't work, and I don't really know like what brand of yarn I'd want to try for a DK weight wool. Obviously there are tons of them, but I kind of got it in my head that I wanted to make a sweater out of knitting for olive yarns or the Macho Garn yarns. So they wouldn't work unless I did like a lot of math to figure out a different gauge, or I knit a different size or something. If you have any yarn that comes in like that pinkish color that's like a DK weight that I could knit the Esther sweater out of, give me a recommendation, because I really want. She knitted a Esther sweater baby in that pink color, and I was obsessed with it, and I really want an Esther sweater in that color. But the Jenny sweater that I'm going to be knitting, it's going to be in limestone. It's bottom up, it's raglan, so you do decreases for the raglan, and then you just knit the whole body in the round and go from there. It comes in sizes extra small to 4XL. I think I'm going to knit it extra small, even though I think I usually fit into the size small with petite knit, because it's oversized and I don't want it to be as oversized probably as petite knit does it. But that is going to be my first real sweater project of the year, and I'm really excited to work on that after I've done my sample and my husband's socks and everything. But yeah, I talked a lot this episode. I feel like I kept kind of getting a little derailed, so if you followed along with what I talked about, I really appreciate you. But I feel like I've had good energy today. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk to you guys. I'm so excited that I got to show you my first design. And I will say it one more time. If you want to test knit this, click the link in the description or check out my Instagram stories. Follow me on Instagram at TrueSummerKnits. And subscribe, give me a comment, give me a like. And thank you for watching. Bye.